Sonic 4 is shaping up to be a huge movie, especially because Metal Sonic and Amy Rose are going to appear and will be very important characters to the story. But do you really have any idea of all the amazing things that could happen in this movie? King Sonic. It seems that the main villain of the next movie, featuring the fastest hedgehog in the world, will be Metal Sonic, a robot that has the same abilities as Sonic. Or rather, it will be an entire army of Metal Sonics, because the post-credit scene of the third movie showed that there are several of them. They appeared out of nowhere, and the most accepted theory is that they come from an alternate dimension, especially because there is concept art from Sonic 3 that shows the hedgehog ending up in an apocalyptic version of Earth, where everything has been taken over by Metal Sonics controlled by a version of Dr. Eggman who was never redeemed, whom we'll call King Eggman since he became ruler of the world. The hedgehog would also meet Amy Rose in this other dimension, showing that she is not from the Earth we know. For some reason, this scene was replaced by the credits in the final version, where Sonic doesn't stop in another dimension, but instead encounters the Metal Sonics and Amy Rose. Maybe the director chose to save this interdimensional journey for Sonic 4, but that doesn't change the fact that Amy Rose and the Metal Sonics most likely came from that dimension. What we can't be sure about is whether King Eggman will appear in Sonic 4, because that depends on Jim Carrey. Will he want to reprise the role again, or would he rather honor the ending Eggman had in Sonic 3 and retire the character? This uncertainty may have been another reason why King Eggman didn't appear in the post-credit scene, but there is a way to replace him in the next movie. Instead of King Eggman, the world could be ruled by an evil version of the Blue Hedgehog, King Sonic. A tyrannical Sonic who commands an army of robots identical to himself. That would be incredible to see and even a little scary. Sounds interesting? And this is only the beginning, because we're going to tell you all 9 amazing theories about Sonic 4 that you absolutely need to know. You already know, right? Another Cinewave is starting! Amy Rose as a villain. In the games, Amy Rose has always been one of Sonic's greatest allies and even a possible love interest, since she is often portrayed as a fan who is madly in love with the hedgehog. The post-credit scene of the third movie showed that she could also be this great ally in the cinematic universe, since she saved him from several Metal Sonics. But what if we, and Sonic himself, are being fooled, and the movie's Amy Rose is actually a villain? In the very scene where she appears, there is evidence of this. Sonic is having an extremely hard time dealing with all those robots, but Amy shows up and defeats all of them with a single swing of her hammer. This suggests that she is far more powerful than Sonic, which is strange since the hedgehog has always been more powerful in the games, and he is far from being weak in the movies. But this can easily be explained if Amy Rose is actually the one controlling the robots and made them allow her to defeat them. Also, Amy could gain Sonic's trust and pretend to be his friend, which would allow her to manipulate him into helping her do something truly evil. Dr. Eggman alive. Few people expected Sonic 3 to have so many emotional scenes, but it delivered several moments that really hit hard. One of them is Eggman's sacrifice, when he gives up on conquering the world to save it, and most importantly, to save his friend Agent Stone. After that, the spaceship Eggman was on completely exploded, making all of us think that this time he had truly died for good. But maybe Sonic 4 will reveal that this isn't entirely true. Shadow used his powers to teleport the ship away with him, without letting us know what really happened. So much so that one of the post-credit scenes revealed that Shadow is still alive, which means it's possible that Eggman survived as well. It's not like that would be completely absurd, since he seemed to have died at the end of Sonic 2 and then revealed himself to be alive in the sequel. If the scientist is alive, we doubt he would return as a villain. After nearly dying to save the world, it would make much more sense for Eggman to become a good guy and help Sonic defeat the Metal Sonics, especially if those robots were truly created by an Eggman from another dimension who is still evil. Just imagine an Eggman versus Eggman showdown. If you also want to see Dr. Eggman return in Sonic 4, comment down below #Eggman. Classic Sonic. Even if you've never played a Sonic game, you probably know that the Hedgehog has had 2 very different looks in the games. The more famous one, where he is tall and slim, and another where he is shorter and chubbier. These 2 Sonics are different characters who live in different dimensions. Movie Sonic is inspired by the slimmer and taller version, since that's the one that appears in the 3D games, known as Modern Sonic. The shorter and chubbier one is called Classic Sonic, and as incredible as it may sound, it's very possible that Classic Sonic could appear in the next movie. In the games, he meets his modern version in Sonic Generations and Sonic Forces, where he is a playable character. The story of these games involves traveling between dimensions, which is very similar to what we're likely going to see in the next movie about the fastest hedgehog in the world. It would be hilarious to see the two Sonics meeting through interdimensional travel, especially because classic Sonic has a very different personality. He doesn't talk and communicates much more through gestures, which is completely different from the Hedgehog we've followed in these three movies, who loves making jokes and pop culture references. They would be one amazing duo. Sonic's origin. Have you ever wondered what Sonic's true origin is? Where his powers come from? This has never really been answered in the games, nor is it usually treated as a big question. But ever since the first movie, this topic has been given a certain level of importance. Sonic himself says that he doesn't know why he is super fast, and he even had to flee to Earth because he was being hunted on planet Mobius, the world where he lived, due to his abilities. It seems like the movies are setting the stage to finally reveal the origin of the main character, and that revelation should happen in Sonic 4, especially since the third movie already gave us a hint about where he might come from. That hint has a name and a last name: Shadow the Hedgehog. In the games, he was artificially created by Gerald Robotnik, but in the movie, Shadow fell from the sky and was only studied by the scientist after that. In other words, there is a hedgehog very similar to Sonic who came from somewhere in outer space, which means that Sonic probably wasn't born on planet Mobius, but on the same planet as Shadow. Now the real question is, what planet is that? Could it be a world full of super fast hedgehogs? Silver. It's clear that Sonic 4 is going to have a story focused on alternate dimensions, and that increases the chances of another very beloved character from the games showing up. Silver, a hedgehog who lived in an apocalyptic future and then traveled back to the past to go after Sonic, believing that he was responsible for the apocalypse, which wasn't true. His story could be slightly adapted so that he isn't from the future, but from another dimension instead. That is, unless the movie decides that the Metal Sonics and Amy Rose actually come from the future, which is possible since the scene of our hero stopping in another dimension was cut from Sonic 3, and this kind of detail can be changed. Many fans noticed the similarity between the cinematic version of Amy Rose and Silver in her brief appearance, making it easy to imagine that he could show up as Amy's partner, traveling with her to Sonic's world, or time period. There's a new video here every day, so subscribe and hit the bell to stay up to date. Super Knuckles. Knuckles is one of the coolest characters in the franchise, and he managed to perfectly balance his serious personality with the humor of these movies. One thing many fans are hoping to see happen is Knuckles being able to use the Chaos Emeralds to become Super Knuckles. That would make a lot of sense, since he is one of the few characters, besides Sonic, who has already achieved a super form in the games. In Sonic 3 and Knuckles, you can play as him and transform him using the power of the Emeralds. In the Sonic comic books, he also reaches this transformation. Instead of turning golden, Knuckles turns pink during his transformation. This could easily happen in the cinematic universe, since everyone who has used the power of the Master Emerald, or the Chaos Emeralds, ended up with a different color. Sonic turns golden, Shadow turns a lighter shade of gold, Dr. Eggman wears black clothing and his powers are green, so a pink Super Knuckles would fit right in. Since the villain will be Metal Sonic, it makes sense that Super Sonic alone wouldn't be enough to defeat him. Metal Sonic can do everything the fastest hedgehog in the world can do, but he can't do what Knuckles does. Because of that, he wouldn't know how to handle a fight against Super Knuckles. Sonic in Love. Even though the Sonic movies adapt many things from the games very well, some aspects ended up quite different, like Sonic's own personality. In the movies, he is more childish and loves making pop culture references. And something many fans have noticed is that in Sonic 4, it would make much more sense for Sonic to fall in love with Amy Rose rather than the other way around, which would be very different since she is in love with him in a large part of the games and animated series. But based on what we saw of Amy Rose in the third movie, she seems to be a very confident and powerful girl, somewhat similar to Sonic himself in the games. Since the cinematic version of the Hedgehog has never met a female hedgehog before and has this slightly goofy personality, it would be funny if he ended up falling for Amy. That could be the beginning of a very cute romance, unless Amy Rose really is evil as we theorized earlier, because then she would take advantage of Sonic's feelings in order to deceive him. Rouge. Sonic 4 might be the movie that brings the most game characters into the cinematic universe. Besides Amy Rose and Metal Sonic, there is another one we could also see, Rouge the Bat. She is a professional thief who becomes Shadow's partner. Shadow already had a lot of focus in Sonic 3, so now it's time for him to meet his partner. Maybe she won't have as much screen time in this movie, but her appearance could help build hype for a possible Shadow spin-off series, where she could appear as a main character alongside the Dark Hedgehog. If Knuckles got his own series, why can't Shadow have one too?
We've left 2 videos on your screen so you can choose and keep having fun with us. See you in the next video.